Here's our adenoid tissue. Now, not a huge adenoid bed, but she gets recurrent infections, so we're going to remove those as well. You can see the turbinates and the choana, and then laterally here's the eustachian tubes. You can see my red rubber catheter coming through, elevating the palate for me. And we have this on 7 in coag and 7 in cutting, and we're going to start from superiorly in the cutting mode. And I'm going to slowly cut away the tissue, and I go in a very superficial manner that allows me to go layer by layer so that the instrument barely is touching the tissue, but you do not want to go too deep that it can take a huge amount of tissue at once. And again, I'm in the cutting mode now. You can see the bleeding isn't too bad in the cutting mode either, as long as you go layer by layer. And now I'm going to go in the coagulation mode, and go ahead and dry it up a little bit, while I then going to take away the next layer of tissue. The tip of the blade does get a little bit of tissue on it and does require some cleaning periodically. As you can see in the coagulation mode, it's making sure those little bleeders that we saw are taken care of, and doing a nice job also removing the tissue. And it could remove the tissue in the coag mode as well. I generally, particularly for a big adenoid pad, I like to reduce the size in the cutting mode first, because you get a much quicker and nicer debulking of the tissue. Although I have heard of some people that just use the coag mode the whole time. You can see the end of the blade is a little dirty. We're going to go ahead and clean that. You need that wire exposed to get good removal. I'm going to go in with the mirror. And so we're going to, again, we're in the coag mode now, just coagulating this tissue. Most of the adenoid tissue is been completely removed. I'm going in Rosenmuller's fossa right now and getting the tissue out of there. Now I'm going from a lower to an upper motion, more because we've already cleaned away all the tissue that was up by the choana. And I am now in the coag mode, which is working nicely for me because the tissue's been mostly debulked and there's not been too much bleeding, which is very nice while we're doing this technique. It is important to go in a layer, superficial layer technique, as you can see I'm doing, almost like a paintbrush. If you bury the tip, you'll get a very deep removal of the tissue where you'll get a significant amount of bleeding. So really, like I said, you want to go like a paintbrush without pushing too hard so that you don't get a big divot. It's such a light touch. And you can see that I'm just going to go layer by layer, and it is sucking away some of that tissue. You can see that there. It's eating away, and now I'm just basically touching nicely just to stop any additional bleeding. But the adenoids are essentially now completely removed. I do leave a little bit of rim of tissue inferiorly to try to prevent velopharyngeal insufficiency in these kids. And but like I said, you can see is a nice removal of the adenoids. The eustachian tubes look nice and undisturbed. We're going to stay away, but we did get nicely into Rosenmuller's fossa. All the adenoid tissue was removed from there. And again, a gentle touching, and the bleeding is almost completely stopped here. And so you can see the adenoids are removed, the eustachian tubes are there. Again, a little bleeder right there. I'm just going to touch right there and see if we can get that bleeding stopped. There we go. Here's the eustachian tubes, look nice and healthy. Choana is wide open. Let's go ahead and put a little saline in there, and then we'll take another look. There's our adenoid bed, completely finished. Removed all the adenoids. I've left a little rim of tissue here of adenoids inferiorly. I like to leave that to prevent velopharyngeal insufficiency. But you can see the adenoids, all this is gone. So we're gonna now, there's one little area that just keeps on bleeding a little bit. So we've changed the tip to the suction coag head, and looks a little bit like a suction cautery. The settings are the same, 7 coag and 7 cutting, but I don't use the cutting mode. I'll just use the coag mode. And you can see here we were getting a little bit of bleeding there, and it's also a nice touch. And look at that, it does a real nice job in stopping the bleeding rather quickly. And we're gonna just touch a few areas that I saw bleeding. And you want to make sure that you're only using the side of it, and that this way the suction portion is free to take care of any suctioning. The other thing that's real nice about this head is if you have some adenoid tissue high up in the choana, it can help to cauterize and remove that. It's also nice for some of the adenoid if it's in rosomulus fossa that you can't get out. But as you can see now, it's nice and dry. The bed looks nice and healthy. You can see how nice it, just a light touch there. And it does a real nice job making sure that there's no more bleeding, and keeps everything nice and clean for you. But that's the suction coag head for this instrument. And like I said, it works nicely. Like I said, here's the eustachian tubes laterally. Rosomulus fossa, all the adenoids are removed. The choana is open. There's no obstruction of the choana anymore on this child.